Hi, crafty friends. Irene here with Artemis Made on the Trinity Stamps YouTube channel today. I am going to be showing you how you can take your decidedly seasonal stamps but use them out of season. Now, first of all, I just want to apologize. I'm getting sick, so my voice is a little bit rough, but we'll muddle through, right? We'll muddle through. Okay, so for this project, I am using the Gnome Stacks Stamp and Die set that was new at the end of last year, and the Ribbon Twirl 6x6 layering stencil. Now, traditionally, these would be considered holiday or Christmas products, but we can actually take things and make it something else. Now, if you notice here, the first thing I'm doing is taking my tree and I'm comparing it to the size of my stamp that I'm going to be using. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want it to be to scale. So the same tree size that is in the stamp, I'm going to try to match my new tree to that. Now the first trick really to taking a holiday or specific type of seasonal product and putting it into a different season is your color palette. So of course, reds and greens are very Christmassy, but I am doing a lot of pinks today. I'm still going to have some red because that's also Valentine's, but my tree to begin with, instead of green, is going to be two different shades of pink. Now, I did my first layer, which is my light pink, and now I'm going over it with a darker shade of pink. And I'm doing a heavier handed shading at the bottom and kind of fading it out toward the top a little bit. So you'll see here, it is a complete tree, and I love this stencil so much. I just think it's so beautiful, and it just airy and pretty, and yeah, just perfect. So I am taking my stamp set now, and I am going to be stamping out basically just the gnomes and the ladder. So I don't need the tree itself because I'm going to be cutting that off, because that is the second trick that you can do for taking your seasonal products and putting them in another season, is by strategically cutting so that you are keeping the portion of the image that fits what you are trying to create. So for me, I'm going to be cutting off the Christmas tree, and I'm going to be using the little gnomes and the ladder, and they're going to be climbing up a different tree. So here I am doing some alcohol marker coloring, and again I said I'm doing the reds and the pinks. Now I've been experimenting a bit with different styles of coloring because I'm still relatively new to coloring and I have a lot to learn, but I also am very limited on time, so I'm always looking for some effective time-saving tricks. Now, the style that I've been messing around with lately and trying to learn is where you take a lighter color and you do one whole wash on whatever surface you're coloring, and then you take a related but darker color, or even a gray, and then go over just one side to give it a shadow. And that's exactly what you see me doing here. And then the opposite side, when you're done coloring, you put a white highlight. So I'm just kind of playing around with this. I don't know that this is right for every type of coloring, like maybe florals. I don't know that I would do that necessarily, but for critters or little characters, adorable little gnomies like these ones, I think it actually works really well. It gives it kind of a pop art type feel almost. So it seems appropriate. So I would love to see or hear what you have to think about this type of coloring. This, simple light wash and then that little bit of a shadow and then a white highlight, which you'll see me put the white highlight in a little bit. So I will say it is definitely time saving, which is great because again, as much as I love beautiful shading and all that, it can be a little time consuming when you're still new to coloring and still learning how to do it. So now I am getting to that second step of making this project my own, which is my fussy cutting. And it is important to do some fussy cutting so that you can really get up against the line and cut off the part that you don't want. Now, the reason I went slow here, if you just noticed, that piece of paper went flying when I cut it, and it landed right into my bin. So I was very proud of this. I made a basket while crafting. I mean, come on, that's pretty impressive, right? It's a low bar, guys. It's a low bar, but I was really proud. So anyway, all right, back to fussy cutting. Here is our completed fussy cut image. Now, another little trick to really help your fussy cutting not necessarily look like fussy cutting is to go around your image with a marker that is in the same color as the marker that you use to stamp out your image. In my case, I did black. Now, if you notice, I got a little mark on the back side. That's why I'm doing it on the back side and then moving my way toward the front, because if I do slip a little bit, it'll slip onto the back, not onto the front, and it will not ruin the coloring. All right, so here you start to see our little image coming together. Isn't this adorable? These little gnomes are climbing up a Valentine's tree. Now, not only did I use Christmas products for this card, I also used this Halloween release web designer set. It had a couple of hearts in there, which I thought were just really cute, and I wanted to incorporate some hearts to decorate my tree. So I'm pulling in some metallic red cardstock, and I'm going to use that to mat my white panel, and I'm also going to use it to mat my sentiment, which you'll see in a little bit. Now, before we go too much further, I did realize in looking at this that when I was fussy cutting this out, I missed a little piece of the tree that is inside of the ladder. Now, what I decided to do was use a craft knife to just kind of carefully cut out the little square inside of the ladder. You don't have to do this by any means. If it was just going to be white behind it, I really could have left it. I don't know that it would have been necessarily noticeable. Or I could have done it by poking a little hole with scissors and then kind of very just carefully cutting out around my scissors. But since I had a craft knife, I went ahead and did that. Make sure if you are using a craft knife, though, that you have a cutting mat down so that you can protect your surface. And of course, always protect your hands. Be very, very careful when using sharp objects, obviously. Okay, so now you can see that the little pink of the tree is showing through, and that's what I was going for. So another little trick here, when I mentioned that I wanted to get some hearts out, I like to take my panel that I'm putting in the background, and especially if it's specialty cardstock, I like to die cut a few things out of it, whether it's sentiments to use later or to use on this card, or any kind of shape, whatever I need. In this case, I actually cut out several hearts from that metallic cardstock so I could use them on this project. Now, this is where I mentioned I was going to put in some white highlights that are on the opposite side of where I put my one shadow line in each of these little colored areas. So the idea here is we've got some dark on one side, light on the other to indicate where the light might be hitting the different little creatures here. Now, I like to do my highlights with, some longer lines, some little dots here and there, not on every surface, but on a fair amount, just because this is a different kind of coloring style. So I really wanted to make sure that we had both the shadow and the highlight represented. So that is what I'm seeing here, even on their little noses. Okay, so next up, we are going to put together our card base. Now, I'm using an A2 card base, which is 4 1/4 wide by 5 1/2 tall. So it's a 110-pound card weight because I like to have a good sturdy card base. And I'm using white because I thought it would be a really nice way for the metallic cardstock mat to pop against that white. So I'm going to adhere it with some liquid glue here. And okay, I say some liquid glue. I think that looks like all of my liquid glue. I have a problem. I don't know how to stop. I'm so worried about it coming up and not adhering properly that I kind of go a little bit nutty. So anyway, it's definitely stuck down and it is not going anywhere. So now you see I'm starting to build up my little scene, and this will take us to the third step of taking our products and putting them in another season. And that is the elements and the sentiment that we choose. So this being a Valentine's card, I really wanted to sort of exaggerate an element that would be associated traditionally with Valentine's Day, which I am sure we would all agree is a heart. So I instead of using more standard embellishments, I actually used those heart cutouts to decorate my tree. And that little cutout for his hand, he was, if you recall, holding a star, but now he's going to be holding a heart. So I popped up my little gnomes, and now I'm popping up my top little heart, and I'm going to get it stuck down in his hand so it looks like he is decorating the top of the tree with another heart. Now, I did not have a sentiment that would be appropriate for Valentine's Day, and I like a good pun, so I like to take a label maker sometimes and make my own sentiments if there's something that I'm missing. So in this case, I just did Love You Know Me. So I printed it out and I matted it on some of that matching metallic cardstock. I popped it up with some foam squares, and don't be afraid to cut your foam squares to get the shape or the size that you need for your particular project. That is a great way to maximize your stash and not have to buy a whole bunch of different elements to get the specific thing you're looking for. So I added a little bit of liquid glue to give myself some wiggle room when I was adhering the sentiment. And you notice I kind of touched all the elements together. So the gnomes are touching the tree, the hearts are on the tree, the sentiment's touching the tree. Everything's kind of centered around that tree. And I do that because I think it gives it a nice sense of cohesion. I considered, putting some of those hearts up and around, but there's something to be said for leaving white space and giving that clean and simple vibe. So, this is it. This is the finished card project. To recap, the 3 tips that we use to take our products out of the season they were intended for and put them into a different season is your color palette, your strategic fussy cutting so that you're only preserving the parts of the image that fit your project, and your thematic embellishments, meaning the embellishments that really fit the theme of what you are trying to create. So this is our finished card project. I really hope that you've enjoyed it and maybe learned a few new tips and tricks on how to take your products that are meant for one season and put them into another. Please remember to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching Trinity Stamps, and we will see you in the next one. Have a great day. Bye.